What's going on, Ravens fans? We got a loaded show for you guys today on the Ravens Rundown. First up, this NFL insider, Dan Graziano of ESPN, made a very bold head coach prediction for the Baltimore Ravens. And then after that, we will get to all of your questions from Wednesday's live show. We're going to cover draft, free agency, the head coach search, anything you could want. Speaking of that head coach search, if you want the Ravens to make a good hire, do me one big favor. Don't jinx it. Hit that thumbs up button. So ESPN released an article earlier this week. Dan Graziano of ESPN went down the list at all the openings in the NFL currently, and he gave his predictions for who was going to be the next head honchos at all of these spots. And for the Baltimore Ravens, Kevin Stefanski. Bet you did not see that coming, ladies and gentlemen, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't either. Now let's break it down. First off, I've got to say, I can feel your frustration and disappointment through this screen, okay? Because I've got a big feeling ever since I read the article, ever since I saw the name, I was like, ooh, the flock is going to hate this one. Well, let's talk about Kevin Stefanski, because all you know of him is being at the Cleveland Browns. And all we really know of the Cleveland Browns is that they lose. Well, was that a Kevin Stefanski problem, or is that a Cleveland Browns problem? He was there for 6 seasons, 45 of 56 records, so a losing record. He did win a playoff game over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Never won the AFC North, but he was Coach of the Year twice in 2020 and 2023. Look, my take when it comes to Kevin Stefanski is the hire wouldn't necessarily inspire me, but it also wouldn't make me devastated either. Like, if the Ravens hired Cliff Kingsbury, I would be depressed. And if the Ravens hired Brian Flores, I would be jumping for joy. Kevin Stefanski, in my opinion, sits somewhere right in the middle. Because I do get your frustration with the fact that he has a losing record and, you know, he made some idiotic moves late in Cleveland. But then I also think we got to look at his situation in Cleveland and think of the fact that he had to coach for 14 different starting quarterbacks. You tell me if you could win with this group. Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum, Nick Mullens, Jacoby Brissett, Deshaun Watson, Jeff Driskel, Jameis Winston, P.J. Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Joe Flacco, again, Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, and Bailey Zappe. Could any coach in NFL history, I don't care if it's Belichick, Landry, Lombardi, all on the same staff, I don't think they could have done anything having to coach that many different quarterbacks. Look, some franchises, some teams, they're just a loser culture. That's kind of what Cleveland is, and I think that's the opposite of Baltimore. That's why I think it could work, because you'd be giving him a guy like Lamar Jackson. Because when he's had Flacco and Baker, he's a winning coach. 21-14. Watson and Gabriel losing, but a little bit closer to 500. And then anybody else, he is well under 500 at 13-27. So would I be pumped up? No. Would I think it was a home run? I don't think so. But would I think this season is over? No, not at all. It would matter a lot who he hires as defensive coordinator. Admire a lot the staff moves he brings in around him. But if you give Kevin Stefanski a roster that is better than what they've been churning out there in Cleveland, guys, you want a playoff game with the Browns. Think he could do something special with Baltimore? I might be crazy. I would feel blank if the Ravens hired Kevin Stefanski. Fill in the blank for me down below in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen. How would you feel? Let me know what you say. Okay, let's talk about your questions now. Favorite part of every single week. You guys absolutely bring it week in and week out on the mailbags. Let's get into this. Our Flock 8. Do you think they trade up for Ruben Bain? Great question. So, if you have not really focused in on the NFL draft, it might be time to start doing that because it's in about 3 months, and the Baltimore Ravens at the 14th overall pick. Ruben Bain is an edge rusher out of the U, and he's about to go play in the national championship Really, really good player. I don't know if he's going to fall to 14, though. Now, the sentiment in Ruben Bain over the last couple of weeks, and I think after the combine, will be his arms are too short. He's got T-Rex arms, which we know matters a decent bit when it comes to edge rushers, and that people actually worry a lot about that. I don't necessarily worry about Ruben Bain. I like his versatility because he can be on the inside and the outside, but I just don't see Baltimore trading up for him because I do believe there's enough good edge rushers that they're just going to let the board come to them. Like, this NFL draft isn't good enough to warrant trading up in the first round, in my opinion. Jonathan Diaz, 1259. Out of our pending free agents, who would you bring back? I think there are a handful. I would be interested to see who you think is worth keeping around. Great question, my man Jonathan. Okay. Free agents in 2026. Tyler Linderbaum, Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kolar, Draymond Jones, Alohi Gilman, Kyle Van Noy, David Ajabo, Chidobe Awuzie, DeAndre Hopkins, Patrick Ricard. If I had to pick three, I'm picking Linderbaum. I think I'm picking Draymond Jones. And then I think I'm flipping a coin between Awuzie, Ricard, and Kolar. I don't think you're going to afford to bring back Isaiah Likely. Like, you're going to be outpriced in free agency, is what I'm trying to tell you. They made their decision when they gave Mark Andrews that extension, unfortunately. And I love Isaiah Likely. Don't believe me? Watch every single video from the offseason, and you can hear how glowingly I talked about him going into 2025. Unfortunately, he just, I don't want to say disappointed, but disappointed a little bit. Something you won't be disappointed by is our friends over at PrizePicks. And whether you're starting a new routine in the new year or making player picks for the very first time, PrizePicks is the place you need to go for all your daily fantasy sports action. It is so easy. All you got to do is download the PrizePicks app, use our code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winning before the game even finishes. With a new social feeds feature, you can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow PrizePicks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. Here's my PrizePicks lineup for this weekend's games. For Denver, Buffalo, I'm going to take the more on Josh Allen for half a rushing touchdown. And for Chicago, LA, I'm going to take the more on Puka Nacua for half a receiving touchdown. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. The link in this promo is in the comments and description of today's video. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Coming up, Jacko. Ravens need to address offensive line by somehow keeping Tyler and by signing Wyatt Teller. Yeah, I wouldn't have mind them keeping Tyler at all. In fact, I just told you he's like the number one free agent option I would take or I would keep. Wyatt Teller would be interesting, but like I am more under the impression that you draft O-line in the first two rounds and then you move Emory Jones and those are your two new starting guards, in my opinion. Papa Shook, how safe is Todd Monken's job if Lamar expects approval of the playbook and Todd himself? His job is not safe because he doesn't have it anymore. Todd Monken's not the Baltimore Ravens offense coordinator. So, don't know where he goes. Wouldn't be surprised if he just followed John Harbaugh, wherever he goes next. But Todd Monken is not a Baltimore Raven anymore and will not be a Baltimore Raven next season. Kimberly Harmon, which head coach would be the right fit for the Ravens? It's a great question. Great word. She didn't ask which head coach do I think would have the most success, not which head coach do I want. Which one would be the best fit? I think of three guys. I think of Jesse Minter. Actually, I'm going to say four. Jesse Minter, Brian Flores, Robert Saleh, and I'm going to give you Chris Shula. I think those four guys just fit everything it means to be a Baltimore Raven. Bring back mantra of play like a Raven, toughness, character, physicality, imposing one's will. I don't know if you've seen that post-game clip from a game this year of Robert Saleh where he's like trying to fight opposing coaches. Like, that's the kind of guy I want. Now, obviously, as a head coach, he's going to have to control his temper a little bit better, but a guy who's not scared to go scrap with somebody. A guy who's tough, who's aggressive. That's who I want. Save the P's. Who would be the worst head coach option? Cliff Kingsbury. That would be a bad one. I'm not fired up about Jim Schwartz. And I feel bad about saying that because I went to college and was friends with his daughter, Allison. Shout out, Allison. But like, I would not be a massive, massive fan if Jim Schwartz got the coaching job. If it's Kevin Stefanski and he wants to bring Jim Schwartz with him as the DC, boom, I am fired up. But if it's just Jim Schwartz as the head guy, that wouldn't pump me up. And definitely not Cliff Kingsbury. My man, official ATL Ghostface. Would it be surprising if we switch Harbaugh and Tomlin? Yeah, it'd be very surprising. It's not going to happen. Look, I think Tomlin's going to go do TV for a year. He pretty much, has confirmed that through his agents. I think he'll go do TV. If he likes that life, he'll keep doing it. If not, he already pretty much knows he's guaranteed to be the number one head coach option at next year's cycle. I'm still Zeno. Thoughts on drafting Olavia Vega, Ione, from Penn State. First round left guard, then sign Whitetail or Joel Benito in free agency to fill the right guard position. So I'm going to say the same thing, Zeno. Don't think you need to sign a new guard because you got Emory Jones. I think he's going to be a starter in 2026. As far as Vega Ione, I would draft him in an instant. I've done a couple of Ravens draft target videos. He's always near the top of that list. Okay, I would absolutely love that. When do you think Lamar gets extended? Great question. Our final question on today's show from my main man attendance squad. I think it's sometime in the next month. I love Steve Bisciotti. He pretty much said, look, Lamar, we want to have you here, but we need you to be bought in. They're going to get it done. They're not going to go into the season with a $74 million cap hit. I hope they get it done like right after they hire this head coach. There are bigger fish to fry right now with the head coaching situation. After you got that, after he fills out a staff, before you get into free agency. So I'm thinking like early or middle of February. That's my guess. That's going to do it for today's show. Follow me on socials. Joey Peterson on both platforms. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well.